Factsverse presents Cafe owner hires homeless man. 2 weeks later, she finds this in the kitchen. Homelessness is a problem in the world today, a big problem. In fact, it's been a problem for decades. People just didn't talk about the problems of the world back then the way that we do today. Many people look at the homeless and they automatically think that they're looking for handouts for booze or drugs. Sadly, there are times when this is the case. However, more often than not, these are homeless people who have become homeless for valid reasons. Many war veterans struggle to get their lives back when they come home from fighting for our country overseas. That results in them becoming homeless. There are some cases where a person is released from prison and they can't find anyone to give them a second chance. Over time, the little money that they do have when they leave prison runs out and they have no money and no place to go. Fortunately, there are some people willing to help the homeless. Some give a few dollars, and that helps them get a hot meal, but it won't get them off the streets. There are some people who are willing to do something more to get them off the street for good. Well, here's the story of when a cafe owner hired a homeless man, and then 2 weeks later, she found this in the kitchen. Two special people's journeys began in March of 2016. Cecilia Abigail owned Abby's Cafe in Minneapolis, Minnesota. In fact, she was the 20th owner of this establishment. The previous owners just could not keep up and running on their own or had chosen not to. Taking over the cafe was her dream. Cecilia was very proud of her cafe. She always worked hard, but regardless of her hard work, she had to fight to keep her business afloat. She had gone through some very tough times financially, especially during the recession. She was incredibly overworked trying to make ends meet, but she did what she had to do in order to keep her dream alive. She could barely afford to cut herself a paycheck, so she really couldn't hire any help. She was just trying to run the cafe on her own so the doors could stay open. On that day in March, a man came into the cafe. Cecilia could tell immediately that the man was homeless. He looked tired, and she could tell that he'd been living on the streets. He walked up to the counter where Cecilia was standing, and he asked for money. Well, he didn't seem shy or nervous about asking. He looked her right in the eye when he asked. She told him that nothing in life is free, and she asked him why he didn't have a job to support himself. The man told her that his name was Marcus, and he wanted nothing more than to have a job where he could have a steady income so that he could find a place to live. Unfortunately, he had a criminal record. He'd made mistakes in his life that he regretted and that he had also paid for. When he was released from prison, he couldn't seem to find anyone who was willing to give him a second chance and give him a job. He told Cecilia that he'd gone to plenty of places looking for work. When people found out about his criminal record, though, they turned him away. Well, now that he's been on the streets for so long, getting a job was even more difficult. You could tell by his appearance that he had been living on the streets. When people saw him, they didn't want to give him a job. In fact, they didn't even want him near their place of business. Marcus's story broke Cecilia's heart. She decided that if nobody else was going to help this man, she would. Because she was so overworked, she decided to let the man work in the cafe. She needed some help, and he needed some help. She could barely afford to pay him, but she did allow him to work there anyway. Cecilia was the first person in years who was willing to look beyond Marcus's criminal past and judge him for the person that he was when he walked into the cafe, a man who needed a second chance. She offered Marcus a 2-hour shift each day. He was thrilled because it meant that he could finally get something to eat on a regular basis. Over the course of 2 weeks, Marcus showed up each day on time for his 2-hour shift. He did just about everything in the cafe, from doing the dishes to taking out the trash. He didn't mind the work because it meant that he was finally earning his own money rather than panhandling for handouts. After 2 weeks, Cecilia was so inspired by Marcus and his work ethic that she wanted to share her story, so she created a post on Facebook, and it read, "I was short-staffed that day, so I asked him, 'You want to work? I have a job for you.' His eyes opened wide and his smile made my day. He said, 'I'll do anything for some food.' So now, for almost 2 weeks, he's been on time for his 2-hour shift, helping take out the trash, washing dishes, etc. Once I paid him, guess what he does? He buys food from my restaurant. He decides to pay because it makes him feel good. With his new job, Marcus has found new confidence in himself, and he's a changed man. Do something nice for someone today, and don't judge them just because they're out asking for money, for we don't know their situation. Some deserve another shot. God gave me this blessing, so why can't I bless others?" Well, shortly after Cecilia created that Facebook post, it went viral. It was shared thousands of times. It was liked 3.6 million times. People all over the world were inspired by Cecilia's story. She couldn't be more happy that the post went viral. Not because she liked the attention, but because she was hoping that just one person would be inspired enough to do something nice for someone the way that she did. Subscribe for more.